It's Wednesday, and that means James Rapien and Tony Wiggins are here with you on Locked On NFL. We're going to talk about preseason predictions on awards, and we'll do it in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hola, what up? What's happening? Arrivederci, all of those things. What's going on? What's good? We back in the saddle together again for the first time in a couple of weeks because of my vacation. I think James had one not too long ago. So we decided to line it up today here on Locked On NFL. We're going to have a little fun with you guys. What's up, Jamie?
Line it up, huh? That's definitely a barber's line. So
That's
you
right.
definitely can tell which one of us is cutting hair. No, it's good to see you. I'm excited to be back with you, and we are packed on a football Wednesday here on Locked On NFL.
Let's just tell everybody we're proud to be your first listener of the day, and we thank you for joining us on the Locked On NFL podcast. And we're free on all platforms. Make sure you check us out wherever you get your podcast. Let's get into it, man. We're going to talk awards already, preseason predictions on first segment, offensive player of the year. Second segment, defensive player of the year. Third segment, we're going to talk three things: either comeback player of the year, most improved player, or rookie of the year. I think we're going to have a great power pack show for you. So let's not waste any time, James. Who you got for offensive player of the year in 2022?
Well, this is tough because I think there are some really good candidates, right? Like I think, people are going to say, oh, well, Russell Wilson for MVP. Well, I think he could be offensive player of the year this year. I think he could put up huge numbers. Offensive-minded coach, better offensive line, weapons, even with Tim Patrick's injury, all of those things. And so he's one of the many, right? I think Devontae Adams could go to the Raiders and post huge numbers again, and we could see him doing just that. But to me, there's a guy in Cincinnati that I cover that has had to get asked about every other day because his quarterback has been out due to an appendectomy. Who's better, you or Justin Jefferson? I swear to God, everybody asked Jamar Chase, who's better, you or Justin Jefferson? Who's better, you or Justin Jefferson? Every national media member coming through is asking that. Of course, Jamar thinks he's better than Justin Jefferson, and I know he doesn't rank himself. He is better. I mean, there's never been a time where it wasn't better. When they were 19, he was the number one receiver on LSU. Justin Jefferson fell in the draft much lower than Jamar Chase did, even though he shouldn't have, much lower than Jamar Chase did after taking a year off. So all of those things, right? But I really think he could be the offensive player of the year. And watching him in camp, he's so much better than he was last year. He's a more complete route runner. He told me how, he was giving me a breakdown of his track workouts, because in Super Bowl 56, there were a couple times he got tired, and he admitted that. And even though he was really good against Ramsey, he said he got tired at times. And those are the things that experience teaches you. So when you're one of these freakish athletes, right, freaks of nature, and you're like, okay, this is what I got to do to get my body right to perform at the highest level always. Combine that with a better offensive line. Combine that with a scheme that I think is going to utilize him and move him around more. I think he's going to line up in the slot more. It's not going to just be a bunch of go balls. I think they're going to find ways to manufacture touches for Jamar Chase. So this idea of 81 receptions, that target share is going to go up, and those receptions are going to go up. Would not shock me if he clears 100 receptions, 1,600 plus yards, maybe more than that. Wow. He might get touches out of the backfield. And so I think he is obviously the Bengals' number one weapon, but I think he's going to have a huge season. And the other thing that I noticed about him, and again, this is not a homer pick, I promise, he's so consistent in camp right now without Burrow. He's catching passes from Brandon Allen. A lot of y'all listening to Locked On NFL don't know who the hell Brandon Allen is.
Right.
So I think Jamar Chase is a sneaky good pick for Offensive Player of the Year.
One of my favorite players in the league. I was all over him coming out of the draft, and I would have fought somebody who told me he wasn't going to be good. And I wanted to fight people last year when he was having those problems in camp, and I was like, just chill, it'll happen. And then all of a sudden he catches that deep ball against the Vikings. and things just go crazy for him. So
By the
I
way,
yeah,
his bet online odds, sorry to cut you off, plus 2,500 right now.
wow.
Justin Jefferson plus 900. I know who I would bet out of those two.
Yeah, me too. He's just, I've seen them interact with each other. Justin Jefferson treats Jamar Chase like he's better than him. You know, he sort of treats him like big brother. So,
Even though he's younger. Even though he's younger too. You're right. You're right about that.
right. So, he treats him like the alpha dog. He was at Chase's workout at LSU. And, it says a lot. And this is not a knock against Justin Jefferson. There's just sometimes a pecking order when you know a guy's that guy. For me, I'm going to go with a different position, and I'm going to go with someone who I kind of beat up on a little bit. It's because I think he gets a little bit of a pass that, say, like a guy like Lamar Jackson doesn't get. Justin Herbert. I'm really tired of everybody crowning Justin Herbert without Justin Herbert going to the playoffs or without Justin Herbert actually leading a very, very talented team to another level. I think he's going to do it this year because I do believe he is a supremely talented quarterback, and I think he's surrounded by great weapons in Los Angeles. I almost said San Diego because I'm still doing that, but I do believe he's going to put up monumental numbers. He has the guys around him, and finally they have a better offensive line in Charger land than they've had probably in 20 years. So I look forward to that team making a little bit of a move, and I look forward to him making a little bit of a move. I'm looking at 40-plus touchdowns, 12 or less interceptions, about 5,000 yards. And if he catapults them into the playoffs and they can make a little bit of a run, I think it's going to be an easy decision for people to give Justin Herbert the MVP next year because I think his talent screams that he's that good.
The MVP or Offensive Player of the Year?
Offensive Player of the Year and challenge for MVP, right?
Yeah, so his Offensive Player of the Year odds at BetOnline, plus 2,500. So the equivalent to Joe Burrow, the equivalent to Jamar Chase, Nick Chubb, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson plus 1,600, along with Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey. The favorite is Jonathan Taylor at plus 700. I like this pick because here's the thing. Justin Herbert's going to put up numbers. And so let's say they don't necessarily make that playoff run, or they're not one of the top seeds in the AFC. Maybe they do go to the playoffs, but they're a wild card team. Well, maybe MVP's out of range, and maybe it's not, but maybe it is if that's the case and they're not, winning their division. But he can still win Offensive Player of the Year. And that's why I like it. There's going to be the volume. It's going to be a pass-heavy offense. He's going to put up big numbers. And so when you have that, I get it. And I think that's another good bet. Look, I like betting on freaks. And I say that it's a term of endearment when we're talking about athletes. If you're a freak
is always a term of endearment, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I'll let that one go. But yeah, I think not that I disagree with you, Wig, but point is Justin Herbert's a freak, Jamar Chase is a freak, and if you're betting on guys like that, young guys that could take another step given what's around them, given just their age and development and all of those things, you got to feel good about it. And so I'm not going to argue with either of these picks. I think other guys could win it, but to me, like Justin Jefferson plus 900, probably a bad bet. Jonathan Taylor, for as great as he is as the favorite, the reason I would say he's a bad bet is because he plays running back and you have the worst odds. And so when you couple those together, what if he gets nicked up for 2 games, 3 games?
Right,
That's it.
right.
That's it.
Like Derrick Henry did last year, right?
It doesn't matter just about your talent. And so if you're going with a running back, I'm not saying don't. I'm not position biased. But if you're doing that, guess what? You want to get a little better odds than just plus 700 because a lot's going to have to happen for that guy to win and be Offensive Player of the Year. What about Defensive Player of the Year? Well, we'll shift gears, and we'll talk about that next right here on Locked On NFL. But first, I mentioned it a couple times during that first segment, BetOnline is a one-stop shop for all things sports betting. So if you're looking to wager on Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, MVP, who's going to win it all, and anything and everything in between this football season, well, you got to get to BetOnline. And it isn't just football. Let's say you want to wager on baseball with the Padres, who struggled against the Dodgers over the weekend, but they might be able to make a run here, or you just think one of these other teams is going to make a run in all the way to the World Series, where you can wager on baseball, UFC, everything and anything in between, including the NBA future bets. With Kevin Durant still wanting out of Brooklyn, will he get out of there? I think the Celtics should trade for him. We'll see if that happens. But get to Bet Online today. Sign up for free. It's easy to do. And start winning right now. I've used them. You should too. Bet Online, where the game starts.
And you start here with us on Locked On NFL on a Wednesday. It's James Rapien, Tony Wiggins riding shotgun. And we're going to get to now the Defensive Player of the Year candidates. I'll go first this time. It's somebody that would have easily won this award last year had it not been for Aaron Donald being so great. I'm going with Michael Parsons, man. Michael Parsons recently said he has the Mamba mentality, and he has the same drive that Michael Jordan had, and I believe him. I think you don't talk about freak. I think he's a freak. He's a freaky athlete. I think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And now I think Dallas is going to need him to play lights out, because I think they're going to be in a bunch of shootouts, because I just think they're a little bit dysfunctional, and they're going to always be one of those teams that's in these games where the other team is going to be able to throw the ball, and that's going to open up a chance for him to make a lot of plays. I think Michael Parsons will be the Defensive Player of the Year. I think he'll have more than 12 sacks. I think he'll make big plays. I think he'll be involved in a lot of strip sacks, causing turnovers. I even envision a pick-six touchdown for Michael Parsons.
Wow. Because
they're going to move him all around. I think he's a budding superstar. I do think the talk about him being as good as Lawrence Taylor is a little bit crazy, but he is stellar. He is a guy that came into the league last year and immediately paid dividends and immediately looked like he belonged in the NFL, and that's a very hard thing for a rookie to do. I think he's worked hard in the offseason. I've seen him with some of the Andre Cisco and from the Jaguars. They were all out. I think he's done everything you want a second-year player to do. I think he's greedy, and I think he's hungry, and I believe Michael Parsons will be the Defensive Player of the Year this year.
Yeah, I could certainly see it. Look, it's so funny. He fell in the draft because like linebacker, and they put him on the edge. It's like, oh, look, what did we find here? And so could he take another step? Absolutely he could. Now, will he face more double teams without Randy Gregory in town? That's a question, right? But I'm wagering on a guy, and last year, TJ Watt, it was his age 26 season. He throws up 22.5 sacks, wins Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to go with someone else in the AFC North. And he's also 26. And he's also a stud. And his name is Myles Garrett. 16 sacks last year. If the Browns are going to win, and we know that Deshaun Watson is going to be out for quite some time, maybe the entire season, who knows, right? Maybe it's 12 games. But he's going to miss a lot of time. Guess how the Browns are going to win games this year? The Browns are going to win games by running the ball with Nick Chubb and suddenly disgruntled Kareem Hunt, punting the ball, kicking some field goals with their rookie kicker, Cade York, and slowly but surely winning with defense. And that means Myles Garrett's going to have a huge year. I mean, they're going to have to win games the same way the Steelers did last year. It really is. It's going to be the running back show. They don't even have the outside talent that Pittsburgh had last year. I do like Amari Cooper, but it's not like you're going to bank on, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Could he be okay? Sure. But is he better than Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, in those guys in Pittsburgh? They obviously had Juju there last year. No, but I think that the way they win, running the ball, taking care of the football, getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks, forcing big plays on defense. I like the Browns on defense outside of that defensive tackle spot, which means Myles Garrett, huge year. Wouldn't shock me one bit if he tops that 20-sack mark this season. Played in all 17 games last year, had 16 sacks. I think he gets at least 4 more this year. Give me Myles Garrett for Defensive Player of the Year.
And shout out to TJ Watt, because I inexplicably named Aaron Donald the winner last year of this award, but it's like I feel like Aaron Donald's won this award every year he's been in the league, right?
I wouldn't argue with you. You're good.
Right,
You're good.
right. But that just goes to show you, man, that there's some really dynamic players in this league. When you Myles Garrett didn't even cross my mind, and he's literally the best defensive end in the NFL right now. So I do believe that you're right. You're spot on with it, and you have a good candidate to win that award, and good reasoning for it. The difference between him and Parsons to me is you can hide Michael Parsons a little bit. You can stand him up. You can move him around. I think Miles is going to be a double team candidate because he's probably going to line up in one spot all season, and teams will do little silly stuff like go away from him and try to avoid him. But he's still very, very disruptive, and he's also a freaky Julius Peppers type athlete. So two good candidates. We'll just have to see how it plays out with those two guys. Now, the third segment is going to be dedicated to a combination of rookie, comeback, and most improved. I don't necessarily have a comeback player of the year because I can't think of anybody who I want to say is Derrick Henry.
I do.
You do have one. All right, so let's make sure we get to the third segment. Let's get to the third segment, and we'll do that. James and Tony here on Locked On NFL, and we'll talk about comeback, rookie, as well as most improved. We'll do it just a second here on the Wednesday on Locked On NFL.
All right, let me get to my comeback player of the year, Tony, because there's a couple. There's a couple, and more than a couple, really. I mean, you could name Derrick Henry, like you mentioned, Jameis Winston, a lot of people on the Jameis Winston train. If Deshaun Watson actually played, you could say that. I think that's a really long shot, even though he's third, according to BetOnline odds-wise. Michael Thomas getting a lot of love. Chase Young makes a lot of sense. Saquon Barkley, Lamar Jackson. But since this is the freak episode, and we're talking about freaky, how about one of the best and biggest freaks in the NFL, and a guy that, to me, workload-wise, might have gotten worn down, might have had a little bit of bad luck, but when he's healthy, I think he's, in fact, am I willing to say this? Yeah, I think so. I would take healthy Christian McCaffrey over any other running back in the NFL. Over any of them. Healthy. Now, I get it. He hasn't been healthy for a while. But it's not like he's ever had an elite quarterback. Right. Cam was past that elite space when McCaffrey got there. And he's put up numbers. And I get it, the volume and all of those things. But this guy runs routes like a receiver. You can use him in a bunch of different ways. And guess what? That's today's NFL. I want a guy that can be in on all three downs and run between the tackles when you need him and split out in the slot when you need him and run any different number of routes and paths and all of those things. So to me, Christian McCaffrey, if he stays healthy, is going to put up huge numbers and is going to be right there for comeback player of the year. And so could I say any number of guys? Sure. But Jameis Winston, he's been fine in the NFL. He hasn't been great. I don't think he's been a bust, but he hasn't been a star. To be comeback player of the year, were you a star before and then you got injured? Christian McCaffrey was, and he's been hurt for a couple of years. And so I think if he plays at a high level, he could win this award. Now, any number of these guys could, but I really like McCaffrey's chances, especially with Baker Mayfield. I mean, is that crazy to think of? I think that's a pretty good fit.
Yeah, it is a good fit. That's why I said the difference between most improved and comeback is kind of weird to me because, as you saw, what I put up is Jameis. I had Jameis because it's hard for him to come back as a comeback player of the year because he's never really been that guy, even though he threw over 30 touchdowns. He also had 30 picks in Tampa.
That's right.
I think he's going to be considered the most improved player. I really believe he's going to have a huge year, even though he turned his ankle here early in camp. But with Chris Olave and Mike Thomas and, of course, those running backs, and then at some point he's going to get Alvin Kamara back after the 6-game suspension, I really believe that Jameis Winston is going to have a big, big year, and this is a year. Let me tell you something. They play Tampa really, really tough. New Orleans, even with Tom Brady, they have given Tampa the works. Mike Evans has a hard time getting open with Latimer guarding him. I really believe that if they get the offensive output from Jameis Winston and the consistency and the lack of turnovers, I think they're going to make some noise in the AFC South. And I think number two is going to be a big-time reason. They finally moved that dude to Taysom Hill. They finally moved him to tight end where he needs to be. And they're giving the reins of this team over to Jameis Winston. And Jameis plays well this year. He's going to get a big contract. So he's in the best shape of his life. He doesn't even look like the same guy, especially when you look at his face. He's really, really thin. I think Jameis Winston has a chance to be the comeback player of the year, and that's who I'm kind of pulling for him because I'm a Florida State supporter, but I'm also pulling for him because I really do think he's a good guy who's just gotten a little bit of a bad rap, but he's also unintentionally the funniest player in the NFL to me. I've never laughed at anybody else more than I've laughed at him, and I don't even think he tries to do it. He's just funny naturally. And I told Ross this, man, I'll never forget when he was running through the machine and he got stuck. It's like the funniest thing I've ever seen, watching him do interviews and watching him interact. So fortunately for me, or hopefully for him, that means it translates to him playing better on the field, keeping the turnovers down, and being considered a guy who's a comeback player of the year. Rookies?
Well, let me ask you this, because
Yeah.
I was about to go there. If Winston wins comeback player of the year, is it partially because Chris Olave is in the offensive rookie of the year mix? Is that what
Yes.
you're thinking?
Absolutely, along with Mike Thomas coming back. Yeah, I think it's a part of it. I think it's definitely a part. They really invested in the offense in the offseason. They took Trevor Penning also in the first round. Normally they had over the years been adding to the defense so much, and the defense is really a good defense. And now they have Tyrann Mathieu. But yeah, I think Chris Olave. I was a big Chris Olave guy. In fact, of all of the receivers that came out last year, he was my number one. He was my favorite guy. He was.
Now that's a bit much.
He
Now
was.
That's a bit much.
He
And
was.
I like Chris Olave.
I had him ranked over Garrett Wilson, and I had him ranked over Jameson Williams. I did.
That's nonsense. That's the one that's nonsense. Could
The
he be
reason
better
why?
than Wilson? Sure. Why? Why?
The
Is it
reason why?
injury?
No, it was because when Jameson Williams at Ohio State, he couldn't get past Chris Olave, and I trust Brian Hartline for a reason. Jameson Williams, he's a great player, but I thought Chris Olave was the best guy. He put up numbers when other guys were putting up numbers, and then the kid that got at Ohio State now might be better than all of them.
So are we doing this?
Yeah,
Because
we're doing this.
All right. So by that logic, JT Barrett should be the quarterback of the Bengals, and Joe Burrow should be a assistant
Absolutely
coach on the
not.
Lions.
Absolutely not.
But by that logic,
Absolutely
I think
not. So you
Jameson
trying to tell me
Williams-
now Chris Olave can't play?
No, I'm saying he's
Chris-
not the best receiver in this draft class. There's a difference. There's
What
a
other
difference.
kid was hurt too? I mean, yeah, Jameson had a knee injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you take Chris Olave and send him to Alabama last year, you don't think he puts up those numbers?
No. Not
Oh, I
Jameson
do.
Williams numbers. Nope. No.
I do. I think he
No.
puts up those numbers.
Come on. I just
I think he puts.
Jameson Williams. And people want to throw out there Drake London, and I talk to people in California, USC, and they're like, "Oh, Drake London's a freak," and all
No,
these guys.
no.
Treylon Burks, he's going to replace AJ Brown. Look, he looks the same, man. Of these dudes, in reality,
Yeah.
Jameson Williams is the freak, or the closest one to being the freak. Now,
Okay.
Willie, I don't know, because I don't think these receivers are. This isn't Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle.
No.
This isn't Jerry Jeudy, Justin Jefferson. This isn't that. It's just not. It's CeeDee Lamb. I mean, those guys are. Those are all ballers. And I'm not
But
saying
that's
that
who
Chris Olave
that's who.
can't
But that's
ball.
who Olave reminds me of body wise. He reminds me of CD Lamb. That's the comp I gave him in the
You think he's got
pre-draft.
those route running ability though? I think he's a speedster. I think he's send him on a go route. That's not bad. I'm not saying he's not going to have an impact. I just don't think he's the number one receiver in this class. That's all I'm saying. I think he's actually a
right.
really good fit in New Orleans and a really good complement to Mike Thomas or vice versa. Mike Thomas, depending on where he's at in his career now,
Right.
a good complement to Olave. The one that should be in the mix here, and we'll see, because it's really hard to trust the New York Jets, but Breece Hall should be in the mix.
I agree.
He should. He should get a ton of touches. He should get some work out of the backfield. He's good out of the backfield. So we'll see. So the two for me, if Jameson Williams wasn't coming back from the injury,
Yeah.
it would be him. I'll default, though, to Breece Hall afterwards. I'm just looking, though. Kenny Pickett getting a lot of love. There's no way I would bet on Kenny Pickett.
No, I heard he's third string right now. Anyway.
Yeah. That's the one I would have to bail on. I don't buy that. I think Mitch Trubisky's going to start at least early, which is going to cut into those numbers that Kenny Pickett would get.
So actually, here's my we got off on the Olave tangent, but my actual pick was Kayvon Thibodeau. I heard he's been wearing people out in camp. I asked Patricia Traynor about him, and she said, yeah. So I'm in Jacksonville, and everybody knows that. So why don't you take Trayvon Walker? Trayvon Walker's great. Trayvon Walker he has shown up to be the physical freak that we all thought he was going to be, and he's great. He's going to be a really, really, really good player. A lot of the things he does, though, they don't necessarily show up on the highlight reel. And he got a sack in the Hall of Fame game, but he also caused another one. And it didn't, and Chris Collinsworth on the broadcast broke it down and gave him credit for it. He said, nope, this was caused because he did this. He took on two guys, and Arden Key ran right past on the little bit of the little twist that they do. So, yeah, I think Travon Walker is going to have a tremendous impact and be like a 8.5, 9 sack guy, lots of tackles for losses, lots of batted balls. I think Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be a 14 sack guy. And the reason why I think that is because I don't think his responsibilities are going to be the same as Travon Walker. I think Travon Walker is going to be more of an edge setter. I think they're going to just flat out turn Kayvon Thibodeau loose. I heard he's been unblockable in New York, and it's New York. If he does anything well in New York, it is going to be blown up, and that's what I think is going to happen. I think he's going to embrace it. They call him Hollywood, man. I've heard people call him Hollywood and all of that stuff. He's going to embrace that whole thing. And hopefully it doesn't get the best of him and it doesn't flame out sort of like Odell did. But I really think anything he does in New York is going to be magnified.
I agree with that part, and I respect what Patricia is saying, and I don't deny it at all, and I understand what you're saying too. But you're right, it's New York. Their next offensive lineman that they get that's quality will be the first one they've had in quite some time. Defense wins early in camp. 14 sacks?
Yeah.
You think he's Micah Parsons?
Yep. That's exactly the. I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said hell no. I got you cursing on here. Hey, but that's exactly the comp that I used in the draft. I said that he was Micah Parsons. Yeah, that's exactly who I said. I said in the draft. I said they did the same thing to Micah Parsons. He fell in the draft because people were like, he didn't play hard all the time and this and that and the third. And I was like, okay. I think those guys like that, I think Kayvon has been the best player on his team, and the best player in his league ever since he was a kid. I'm serious. He was my guy in the draft. I didn't necessarily think the Jaguars were going to take him, and I like the Travon Walker pick a lot. I think Kayvon Thibodeau, I'm not saying he's a better player than Travon Walker. What I'm saying is, numbers-wise and what they're going to ask him to do, he's going to get a lot of sacks. That's just what he's going to do. He's going to be a sack artist. Travon Walker's going to be asked to set the edge and play in coverage and do a lot of other things. I think they're sending that kid in New York up and through around every gap they could to try to sack the quarterback. And I think those guys in the NFC East are going to let him get to him a lot, especially the dude in Washington. He's in trouble. He's going to sack that dude in Washington 5 times this year. Watch.
That dude in Washington, you can't even say his name, huh?
Carson freaking Wentz, who stinks right now, according to everybody, the Rooster and everybody else that I've been listening to. They're getting what they deserve because he's terrible.
What happens when Carson Wentz stiff arms Kayvon Thibodeau to the ground the first time he tries to sack him?
Carson Wentz ain't stiff arming nobody.
Yeah, I might have gone a little too far there.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, like Carson Wentz, Cam Newton or something. Carson Wentz going to be running for his life. He's going to throw the ball left-handed. That's what he's going to do.
Maybe Ron Rivera should have called Cam Newton this offseason instead. Who knows? Here's what I do know. It ain't going to be Kayvon Thibodeau. I'm going to get cold take like crazy if it is. I'm selling that stock. Who could it be? I mean, there's a lot of defensive players in this draft, right? Starting at the top, like you said with Walker. The other one I would say, a little Sauce Gardner. The one that worries me a little bit is the corner at LSU, third to the Texans. I want to make sure he's healthy. I forgot his name.
He's healthy. He's healthy. He can play too, man.
No, I know he can.
You're talking about Derek
Stingley.
Stingley.
Derek
yeah,
Stingley.
I know
There we go.
He can go.
So if he's healthy, it's his first healthy year in a while. And this was a guy, as a freshman, that was giving Jamar Chase problems in practice.
Right.
So if he's healthy, that would be a guy, like, I would roll with one of the corners, honestly. Stingley, Sauce. Man, those two dudes are freaks. It's the theme of today's show, apparently. So that's what I would roll with. You're rolling with Kayvon Thibodeau. Can't wait to see that Carson Wentz stiff arm. It's like the Heisman. He's be doing the Heisman, dude.
You're crazy, man. You've been in that sun too much. That sun been baking your brain, man. Hey, Carson Wentz ain't stiff arming nobody, man. We ain't gonna stiff arm our people, man. We're gonna thank them today for checking us out here on Locked On NFL. Make sure you check out Locked On Fantasy Football also with Vinny Iyer. I know you guys are all getting ready for your fantasy drafts. I'm doing the same thing. I'm in a PPR. I'm in 2 different PPR leagues. I got the 3rd pick and I got the 12th pick. So make sure you check out Vinny Iyer so he can give you all of the information that you need on the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast.
Wig's gonna pick Kayvon Thibodeau 3rd overall.
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not. I might take Jamar Chase though, 3rd overall.
There we go.
I might do that, right? Hey man, y'all, thank y'all for joining us here on Locked On NFL. Do what we always say. Make sure you take care of each other, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Make sure you tune in tomorrow too, because it's coming right back with another crew here on the Locked On NFL podcast. Take care.